So good evening, everyone. Welcome to November's issue of All Access Belize. I'm your host, David Kafka, and Serena is on our back end helping with some of the background work, helping answer or ask the questions and bring them to the question and answer box, and just giving you some updates on things we're talking about. We thank you for joining today. Looks like we're going to have a nice crowd today, and we weren't sure if we were going to be able to have it because of Hurricane Lisa. So let's welcome our guest, Ken. And then, Ken, you can tell us where you're at and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good evening, everyone. I am in Independence Village, Sand Creek District, Belize, Central America. My name is Eliceo Ken, but most people in Belize know me by my nickname, which is Ken. I'm a tour guide from 1995, and I love what I do, which is showing my country, my beautiful, our beautiful Belize.
Yes.
And so I naturalist guide, a relocation guide, archaeological guide, and I know most parts of Belize, tourist attractions, historical sites, cultural tours, etc.
Good. Ken, go ahead and cut your camera off to see if we can hear you better, because we're breaking in and out. And while you work on that, we can try to see, everyone, we are, the lights may go out. They've been flickering. One of our internets at my house in Placencia is not working. The other one is, but they have been kind of spotty. So if we lose, we'll just keep going and whatnot. And I've known Ken for quite a long time, and he's more than a tour guide. I will say that. We can also, go ahead and put your questions, anything Belize related, and Ken and I can answer. And even if you want to ask questions to Serena, she's here with me in Placencia, about growing up here in Belize, because that's where she grew up since she was 11. So go ahead, you can type in your questions, and until we get questions, Ken and I will just talk and whatnot, and then we'll go to answering your questions. Again, we put these on once a month, so if you enjoy what you're learning, then tell 2 friends about it. As my friend Victor Minaj says, don't keep all this goodness to yourself. We enjoy educating people about our wonderful country. Ken is Belizean, and I'm a naturalized Belizean, which is the difference is Ken was born here. I've been here long enough to where I can have a passport, and is what I've done. So between the both of us, we know a lot about Belize. So Ken, tell us about your family. I know your wife. Tell us a little bit about her and what she does, and your kids.
Okay, I am married to Sand Creek Gal, meaning from Sand Creek District. She's from the village of Hook Creek. And we have 2 children, 2 girls, one 18, one soon to be 18 next week, and one 8-year-old. And well, she's a high school counselor and also a life skills teacher for both the high school and the junior college.
Great.
And so I've been living here for the past 5 years now. I am originally from Corozal, the northern part of Belize. So moving here in the south gives me a nice perspective on what life is all about in Belize. So I've lived in Belize City. I've lived in Corozal, and now I'm living here from Placencia, where people come and get their passport stamp. If they are staying for a month, to get their visa extension here at the port.
And I'm going to try to stop your video and see if that helps, because you're really breaking up. Okay, can you hear me okay?
I'm hearing you. Like to move closer. Is that better?
It's starting to be a little better. Hopefully you all can hear me good. Maybe one of you can, in the question answer box, just tell us if you got a thumbs up, or if you can hear us good. We'll come back to Ken in a minute. We got some questions coming up, and Ken would know a lot about Corozal because he's from Corozal. And so Carol's saying that she does hear David good, but not Ken. So let's see if the video off for Ken will help some. So Brad's asking about developing in Corozal. I think I've seen Corozal quite a lot lately, as we're getting ready to open our office there right across from Atlantic Bank. It was an old pizza place, and it's getting remodeled and things like that. And we love, I love, the more I spend time in Corozal, the more I like it. You're a hop, skip, and a jump from Chetumal, Mexico, where you can kind of get some of the things, that we don't get here in Belize. Home Depot, Sam's Club, things like that. And it's just nice to go out of the country sometimes. We've been pretty busy in Corozal. We have a couple agents up there, one in Sartaneja and one in Corozal, and constantly building. Ken, what do you see going on in Corozal in the last few years?
Well, I've noticed a lot of construction happening. There is a large movement of expats moving to Corozal, mostly in the northern part, particularly Consejo Shores, Mayan Seaside. And so there's a lot of development. I also noticed that two large areas were bought in town, and those that belong to the Mennonites. There will be a new quality chicken and also a Caribbean chicken. So they are expanding. That means their customer base is growing. So now they are building a bigger store. And there's a lot of newer stores opening. And there's many small businesses that have started in Corozal. And I guess it's in relation to the growing expat population. So there's a lot of new entrepreneurs, and so they are building newer hotels. And because of the paving of the Sartaneja Corozal Road, that will also attract many people more to Corozal.
Yes, I agree. That's going to open up that whole area right now. So I know we've been busy. I know just in, it was a year or two. Well, before COVID, before COVID, I was in Corozal. Then after COVID, I was in Corozal. And lately I've been there, I guess, once a month. And I just see in the growth, restaurants are opening up, stores are opening up. And like Ken said, Caribbean chicken and the other chicken place is opening. So it's definitely growing up there. So Charles is asking, how are the rules for short-term rental properties? Thinking of buying a property and renting it when we're not using it. That's what most people do. If you have a property that is part of a condominium complex that already has a management in place, then there's not much you have to do. But if it's like a single family home or something like that, then you just have to apply with the BTB and get your hotel license and hire a property manager, and all that can be done. Usually your real estate agent will guide you through that. whole process and help you with it and introduce you to the people to get it done. Or, if you're spending enough time here, you could do it yourself. So it's not hard. It's not easy either, but it is kind of a lengthy process. You have to have the fire department there, health inspector there. You have to make sure you have exit signs and an evacuation route, things like that. You have to have a book that has emergency numbers and things like that. But there's templates and all that you can use, and we'll, if we're your real estate agent, we can help you with it, because we've done it for our properties as well. So that's a good question, Charles. Brian's asking about, is the golf course in Placencia finished and developed? If so, is it up and running? If you're talking about the Panther golf course, no, it's not up and running. Nothing has been done in years for it. Now, if you're talking about the mini golf course that is in Mango Creek or in Independence, they are working on that. And maybe, Ken, do you know what the status is of that?
About the other one that you're talking about.
Okay, yeah, there's one in Mango Creek that is somewhere along the coastline, if you will. And I've seen pictures, and I have an updated picture of where they're at. And Brian, if you send me an email, I can send it to you. I don't know the owner, but I do know they're not up and running yet. The putt-putt place is up and running, and they installed a pickleball court now as well. So definitely will, you can go to, we're trying to get Brian on All Access Belize, and he's the owner of that whole development area, Serenian Bay. And one more thing about Corozal, that you may, or, me personally, I don't know Spanish, but Ken knows Spanish, and he helped me one time because I wanted to go across the border and go to one of the private hospitals in Mexico and have a lipoma removed. And I talked to Ken. Ken went with me over there. We stayed the night. He took me to the doctor. He helped translate. And then, we got adjoining rooms. And so, Ken does that for a lot of people. Ken has a lot of connections in Chetumal. And so if you're looking for medicine or something that you can't get, Ken will help you, get it over there. And then he'll bring it in to the country. So he'll, get it to you. So Ken, do you want to talk a little bit about that and see if your internet's a little bit better?
Yes, a lot of before COVID and now after COVID, post-COVID, a lot of people want to do shopping in Home Depot, or they want to get things that is not available in Belize that readily, including medication, or they want to go and get an MRI. And so I can facilitate that. I know most of the hospitals and I know how to get around. And yes, the good thing about Chetumal is that a lot of the doctors, although they may not speak English, understand English. And so the hospitals now are hiring personnel to translate for you. So in case you decide to, if you go on your own and you're lost, at least you can find someone that will speak English and Spanish. But it's much more recommended that you go with somebody that knows, so you don't have to be turning around and going from place to place. You can go just direct and do your business. And yes, when we went to do that surgery for David, that was an overnight thing, and within 2 days we were back in Belize again.
Yeah. And then I think we went over one day and he took me to a mechanic who did some work on my car at the time. We went to Sam's. I mean, it was just cool. And even before that, you know, even I don't have to go to Mexico. He can just order it from people and get it brought in. So Serena will definitely put his email in the bottom, and then it will, you know, you can reach out to Ken, as well as not just that, but I've used Ken for tour guide, as well. We do tours, real estate tours, and we kind of make it fun. And so we would bring Ken along with us, and he would help guide us and talk about the history of the country, depending on where we're at. And then archaeological sites, the Mayan sites, he's really good at as well. So definitely I recommend Ken. Reach out to him to get any quotes you might need, and you know what he does. So Kevin's asking, what is the best procedure and process to go about determining shipping household goods and belongings to avoid duty? Best companies to use for these services. Kevin, I used Hide Shipping. And if you're talking about a container load or even a half a container load, something like that, I use Hide Shipping, and I use Mr. Lara. He's a customs broker. I don't know if Ken has somebody. We'll ask Ken if he has a customs broker. But what you do is you make a list of everything in your boxes, and he will kind of give you an estimate of what the things will cost as far as duty goes. You will have to pay duty on it unless you're coming on the qualified retirement program. Then you can bring in your stuff duty free. But again, reach out to me and I can give you my customs broker. I've used him. I recommend all my clients to him. I have a friend that just drove a car down from Canada right now, and they're working on that as we speak. That was done. He came in like Friday of last week, and they're working on that between the hurricane and all that. So do you have a customs broker you like, Ken?
Well, if you are arriving in Belize City, I use Tony Herrera. He's a former custom officer, so he knows all the ins and outs, and plus he knows the custom officers. So Tony Herrera, I can send David his email afterwards, and he can post it to the group. In Corozal, I use Ron Riverals from Riverals Brokerage. He's not very pushy, and he's very good with people, and he gets the job done from Riverals Brokerage.
Okay.
I see Stephen has his hand up, David.
Who's this?
Stephen Clark.
I don't see where. Oh, yes, I do see a hand up. Go ahead, Stephen. You want to unmute? And I don't know if, can you unmute? There we go. All right, go ahead and unmute yourself, and then you can ask your question. Can you hear me, Steve? Okay, we'll go ahead, and while you figure it out, Stephen, we'll go ahead and ask or answer another question. Brian's asking, can we expect a direct flight into Placencia anytime in the near future? Is this all on the radar? You talking about from the States, Brian? Like a direct flight from the States into Placencia? The international airport in Placencia is a long way from being completed and finished. A guy in Texas owns it, and it needs, you know, about another $15-20 million to make it FAA compliant to where flights will come in. We've had flights come in now for smaller planes. When we had like where all the countries from Central America come here, we had them fly in, and they made arrangements where customs would be here or immigration would be here. But there's no direct flights anytime soon coming into Placencia. You're always going to have to stop in Belize City. Now I'm working with some investors to bring in a plane, and it's going to be like a Cessna 206. And if we come in, we might do flights to Mexico, Merida, things like that. And we could come in on a commercial flight into Belize City and then take that plane straight to Placencia. So that's something we're working on in the near future with my syndication, my asset management company, Caribbean Capital Group. But right now, there's no direct flights in the future. Danielle's asking, we bought 38 acres in Corozal 15 months ago. We're still waiting the government to assess the land transfer tax. We understand things have been delayed due to many factors, but is this a reasonable amount of time? Yes, Danielle, this is pretty reasonable. I have clients waiting up to 2 years. Now, if what we normally do is we always charge the 8% tax on the property, and we pay that tax. Then it goes through a certain amount of steps in the lands department. And what happens is one of those steps is an assessment step, if you will. And if they feel you got the property too cheap and it was below market value, then they can reassess you. About 40–50% of our sales are being reassessed right now. I just bought a property in Nicaragua and I had it reassessed. It's not a Belize thing. It's more of a Caribbean, Latin America thing. Because of its being a low tax jurisdiction, they're able to do that. So it could take, 15 months, 2 years to get that done. And if you want, you got a instrument number, you can always call, or your agent should be able to call for you and get an update on where that is. I know there's an online website you can check as well if it's on there. So that's a good question. It's something we don't talk about a lot, but it is very common. Somebody else just reached out to me that they bought property in San Pedro and they haven't gotten their title back yet either. So it's definitely was slowed down a lot due to COVID, but it was slow even before COVID. Before COVID, it would take up to 12 months. Now it could take 2 years. And if you've been reassessed and you haven't paid it, then you'll never get the title until you pay it or you fight it and then try to get it lowered. But about 10% of the people that fight win. The rest, don't win. So sometimes it's just best to pay it and get it done with. That way you get your title and all that. So Kevin's asking, how easy is it to cross to Mexico and back, for instance, to shop? I'll answer a little bit of that, and then we'll turn it over to Ken. And Kevin's other question is, what does it cost to cross the border? So it's definitely different price for different people. Because I'm a Belizean, it's definitely cheaper than if you're, a tourist or an American living here on a tourist visa and you go across. So I'll let Ken answer that. It's not hard at all. It's just a process. You got to go through the U.S., the Belizean side, the U.S. side. And then when you're coming back, you have to go through the customs side. So Ken, I'm sure you do this a lot. Why don't you kind of talk a little bit about that?
It's actually very easy to cross over from Belize into Mexico. And depending on what time you arrive, avoid the rush hour between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. because of free zone workers. But if there is nobody in the line, all you need is your passport and your departure tax, and then you present your passport with a receipt from the border management, and you get a stamp, and you're free to go. Sometimes they have you fill out a form, sometimes they don't, but it's not a very long process. From there, you get back in the vehicle and go over to the Mexican side, and you check in with the Mexican authorities. That is a little bit of a longer process because there is a form that you need to fill out, and sometimes there is long lines. But again, it's a process that's very easy, and the form is in English and Spanish. So you just fill out and you get your visa to enter Mexico, and that's about it.
Yeah. And what's the cost to cross the border? There's an exit tax, right? For somebody
US, for foreign nationals, it's 20 US to leave the country of Belize, 20 US departure tax. To enter Mexico, and I think if you stay longer than a week, I think it's approximately 30 US. I'm not sure about that, but there is a tourist tax that you pay to the government of Mexico if you're staying longer than a week.
Yes. Yeah. It was, I actually, when we went, I guess we were there like 2 months ago, and we went from San Pedro, we took the boat to Corozal, and then we hired this taxi guy, and he drove us all the way to our hotel in Chetumal. We stayed at Fiesta Inn, and he helped us do the whole process. It was super easy. We beat a bus. If we would have been behind the bus, it would have been a lot longer. But like Ken said, just try to go, not during rush hour. It took us about 40 minutes to go from the boat taxi to our hotel, maybe an hour to our hotel. And it cost me about 80 Belize dollars to do that for me, my wife, and my 2 boys. So, and then what we did is we called him up and told him what time to pick us up at the hotel. He picked us up and we can come back. Now, when Ken and I went, we took my truck over, or my car, one of the two. And yes, it does need to be fumigated. They spray it when you go across into the Mexican border. That's one of the last checkpoints that you have to go in. You pay a fee, and then you go through like a little drive-through that just like what you did on going into Guatemala. So Kevin also said that he purchased property on the Hummingbird, and it's been 18 months, and he hasn't received his. It's crazy. I have some clients within 4 to 6 weeks, they get their title on a land certificate in a registered area. And then I have some people that haven't gotten their title in a registered area in 2 years. So there's no rhyme or reason why it takes so long. But I mean, this year was probably one of our best years we've ever had since I've been here 13 years. So I will say that it's probably going to get longer. We tell people, 8 to 12 months, but now we're starting to tell people 12 months to 24 months, just so they can, be prepared. What Mr. Winkler was saying about that instrument number, the LUA number, the LUT number, that's your instrument number that proves that you're the owner. You can do most anything with that number. You can start building with, even before you get the title, as long as you use that number, and they'll accept that receipt. So anyway, so it's 6:30 Belize time. So definitely thank you for your questions. Keep them coming. We'll, again, we're enjoy answering your questions, and we will take one of you all who are here tonight, and one of you will win a free gift of a book, Think Big. It's another book that I had the privilege of co-authoring, and we'll send it to you. Serena will put your names in a hat and draw everybody that's on there. Stephen, were you able to answer, or were able to type in your question? I can unmute you if you want. All right, it looks like you are unmuted. No, you're not. So again, with us today is Ken. He is a longtime friend. He's married to his wife is he's a teacher. Again, not a teacher. She say it again. You were kind of up, but she's not a teacher. She's in what does she do, Ken?
Teacher, counselor.
Counselor, right? A counselor. That's the word I was looking for. And Ken's a great tour guide, and he also helps people navigate Mexico. Helps you get things in Mexico that you can't get in Belize. And he'll have it shipped to wherever you're at in the country of Belize if you can't go yourself, or if you don't want to go yourself. He can go with you, or he'll go get it for you and bring it in, or he has people that run errands for him as well. We've done, man, what have we done? We've done, man, during the pandemic, we had baby formula. I think you got from me, Ken. We've done auto parts. We've done medicine. There's so much that Ken has done that he can do. So definitely, Serena, in the chat box, put in his email address. Any questions you have, prices for tour guides. If you want a price on what does it cost for a drive shaft for a 1999 Toyota RAV4, he'll get it for you, right? So definitely reach out to him and keep those great questions coming. So Danielle is asking, I thank you for your early response, but in the meantime, please, could you recommend a good contractor or local builder our road so we can have direct access to our property? It's close to Cerro Sands on the south side. It's already been started. Yeah, let's take that offline, because I personally don't know. Maybe Ken, do you have any good builders that in Corozal? And you're muted. We had my agent from, he's Canadian, and he is my agent in Corozal now, and he talked about a couple builders he uses. He just bought a house in Consejo Shores, and he's getting a swimming pool done, a fence done, and he's using he got 2 quotes. And if you reach out to Richard at firstchoicebelize.com, he can tell you that. And then Ken, you can tell us if there's any contractors that you recommend there as well.
Okay, thank you.
And then Brian's asking, I know there's a water taxi that takes people to Ambergris from most parts from Belize City. Key Cocker, is Placencia on that list, or is it too far? Placencia is not on that list. Now, there is a boat that goes from Placencia to Puerto Cortez to Honduras. It goes on Friday and I think comes back on a Monday. It's called, I think, Thunderbolt. Maybe Serena can look it up real quick while we're talking. It's about an hour and it takes you there. And there's a boat that goes from San Pedro to Corozal and San Pedro to Chetumal. And there's also the Belize, San Pedro Belize Express will do Belize City and Chetumal as well. I don't think they leave from San Pedro. But no, there was the Ragamuffin that would go from San Pedro, or maybe it's Key Cocker to Placencia. So maybe look up Ragmuffin. I don't know if they're still in business. Maybe Ken might know if they're still in business.
They changed their name. They changed their name from Ragamuffin.
They did.
I don't recall what their name is, but yes, they run from Keycocker,
Okay.
from Keycocker to Placencia.
Okay. Okay. And they stopped on some of the keys and you kind of camp out. I hear a lot of great things about it. I've never done it because I don't care to camp unless it's in a cabana with a hot shower and internet. But they definitely do. Kevin's asking, your opinion, is it better to purchase an auto in Belize, US and ship down, or purchase in Mexico and bring across? Same with the compact tractor. So I believe there's no duty on a tractor if it's being used for farming. However, I know a lot of people that bring tractors in from the States from auctions, and they do pay the duty on it, but they're not using it for farming. They're using it for excavating and building. Cars in Belize. I personally have done both. I've brought one in from the US, but the last two I purchase here. I don't purchase new. I purchase, certified pre-owned, if you will, something that's still under warranty, but is a couple years older. So somebody else can take that hit. And I definitely like that. If you buy a used car in Belize, please check the Carfax. There's no disclosure laws in the country, and most of these cars are salvage vehicles. Now, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying, you got to make sure that it's being fixed with good parts and things like that. And you just want to know, how bad was it wrecked? I've seen cars that were totally would have never, ever been rebuilt. They would have been in a crusher that have been rebuilt here. And they sell it like, a new car or a fairly new car. When you go over to Mexico, I know several people that have purchased Suzuki Sidekicks or Samurais and bring them over, new ones. You could do either or, right? If you're bringing it over from Mexico or the States, you just have to hire a customs broker and have it shipped down, either on one of the shipping companies or Hyde Shipping, something like that. I currently rebuild salvage and insured company cars. It's easy for me. Yeah. So if you could do that, you could do that. I know people that do it and they do a good job on it. I personally believe you should disclose that and let the people know. And don't sell it like a brand new car or a 2021 car, that's never been wrecked. That's my personal belief. I'm not saying everybody has to do that. I just believe in disclosing everything and let people buy with their eyes wide open. But if it's something you can do, then by all means, you can do it. I'm not a person that can do that. So I prefer to buy a good used vehicle that I can, have a little warranty on for a year or two. And like my truck is a 2013 Isuzu D-Max. I bought it, when it was a couple years old. It's paid for now, runs great. The dealership still does the work for me. But I also have people that have a good car they like in the States and they just bring it down. Or like my buddy did. He bought a car in Canada and drove it down. And he likes doing that. This is his second one. He goes on a different route each time and sees different parts of the country, the US, Canada, and Mexico. And he does it like in 4 or 5 days, and he enjoys it. And then he either keeps the car for a year or so. Actually, this one he decided that he's going to sell it. So, he's going to keep the older one and sell the newer one. So it's definitely, definitely something you can do. But if you can get salvage vehicles, if you can get things cheap enough on auction sites in the US, I'd say buy it there and bring it here. Is probably what I would do. Just get a customs broker that, that we talked about earlier and bring it in. Can you have any follow-up to that? I'm sure you've seen a lot of people bringing in vehicles from the States.
I recommend bringing a vehicle from the States, especially if you're going to buy a used vehicle in Belize. It's too risky, too many salvage vehicles.
Yep.
And in this case, flooded vehicles in Florida,
Yes.
Houston.
Yes.
So I would rather have your vehicle brought in from the US rather than,
Yeah.
And right now, even the insurance companies will not insure your vehicle once it has been flooded. So that's something new.
Your insurance company in Belize?
That is correct. The insurance company in Belize will no longer insure flooded vehicles.
Wow. How do they know? They do a Carfax?
So they are starting to do their own research, Carfax. So
There you go.
that is
There you
something
go.
new that just happened over 2 months ago. They announced that
Okay.
for buyers
Awesome.
not to bring in any flooded vehicles from Florida.
Yeah. It's and they're starting to crack down, because there's so many vehicles that are all broke up, and we do have an inspection process, but it just sometimes they don't go out and inspect. They just give it to you, and so many things are broke up, and we have all these accidents because of broke up vehicles. So Kevin, they will allow US salvage vehicles to come in the country. That's all what's coming in are salvage vehicles from the US. They don't drive them because most of them aren't drivable. They don't fix them in the US. They bring them all broke up here and pay little to no duty on them. And then they fix them here with sometimes subpar parts. But sometimes, like sometimes they might not replace the airbag. They just replace the steering wheel. So stuff like that is what you want to know, in my opinion. And, like Ken said, if you want, you can buy one here, just do your own Carfax, right? And it will tell you what the history of the vehicle is if it's brought in from the US. If it's a third world car, there probably won't be a Carfax. Like if it's a diesel or, a third world edition, like I have a Nissan Kick, but it's not a Nissan Kick from the US. You can tell the difference. It's a little probably not as built, right? My truck, my Isuzu D-Max is a third world truck. So those vehicles aren't in the US. They're not in North America. So I don't think there's a Carfax for those. But if it's a US vehicle, like a basic vehicle that would come that you can buy in the States, then get it checked. If there's nothing there, there's nothing there. But they're, in my opinion, they're worth their money in gold. And I didn't know what Ken said, so it's good to know that, they're checking and they're not insuring third or south flooded vehicles. Sorry. Also, when you bring in golf carts, motorcycles, scooters, or whether you buy them here or bring them in, you do have to get those licensed and insured. So make sure you do that. And something I learned, I thought that wherever the car was registered at, you had to get the sticker there. So my truck was sitting for a couple months because I haven't driven it, and the sticker ran out. And I was in Belmopan, doing some stuff at the US Embassy. And I have Stan Creek plates and a Stan Creek sticker. And I thought I had to go to Stan Creek, like in Dangriga, every year to get the sticker, but I didn't have to. They they let me get the sticker. I just have a Cayo sticker now, but you know, it's good to go. So that was something I learned recently as well. Let's see. All right. There's no questions. Ken, do you want to follow up on any of these questions that I kind of been talking so much? What was the damage in Mango Creek?
Nothing. We didn't have anything, but we were prepared. A lot of the houses boarded up with plywood, and we just listened to the radio and waited, and nothing happened, which is good. Which
Yeah.
is good. Which is good.
It is. Yeah, I saw Nemo put out a report that about 60 houses, I think, were lost, or 80 houses lost their roofs, and 50 houses were lost, mainly in Belize City area. Belize City got about 7 inches of rain, I'm told. We got one hard downpour early on, and one couple gust of wind, but the rest of the day was just beautiful. No rain hardly. I didn't board up my house. We did board up our art shops in Placencia and San Pedro, but that was it. My Remax office, we moved everything upstairs just in case, but we didn't board nothing. If you're on Facebook, take a look at some of the pictures. You could see the reef in San Pedro doing what the reef is supposed to do. You saw huge waves crashing at the reef, but then inside the reef, it was pretty calm. So granted, this was a category 1, and you know, it could have been worse. But we're thankful that it wasn't you know, as bad as it was. And like Ken said, you know, Ken is just across the lagoon from me, and he was, you know, he was fine. Did y'all lose power, Ken? We lost power for what, like 15 minutes, Serena? 30 minutes? Yeah, like 30 minutes.
We lost power for about 10 minutes.
Okay.
10 minutes. The water did go out, but it came back
It or did
early
not?
this morning.
Yeah.
The water did go out. Yes, we didn't have any
Okay.
water.
Yeah, I know Placencia, they cut the water off. It was planned. And the cable is out. Smart in Placencia, the smart cable is out, or the smart internet is out, and the cable is out. The cable internet is out, and the cable is out. At least it's been off and on most of today, because I run my cameras on the SCN cable, because the BTL doesn't allow you to run more than 1 or 2 cameras, and I have more than that. So yeah, the internet is still out on my camera. So I'll be residing in the Stand Creek district, Kevin says, very near Cayo, Stand Creek. Is there anything that I need to be aware of regarding what? Districting? You talking about like what permits you get? Do you get Cayo permits or Stand Creek permits? Things like that? Is that what you're talking about, Kevin? That's an excellent question. You know, there's really no difference because of where you're at. You're still kind of not in a town, or a town. If you were in Belmopan, there would be some extra steps you would have to do. But you could do pretty much whatever. So what you would do to build a house, let's say, is you would get a central building authority permit from the central building, the CBA, and they'll give you the approval if it meets all the requirements. And if you have a Belizean architect draw it up, then you'll be fine. they'll approve it, you know, or they'll make changes, or they'll ask you to make changes and then approve it. But after that, there's no other approvals you'll need unless you're doing a big subdivision. Then you're going to do the LUA, the Land Utilization Authority. And again, there's no other stuff that you have to do. For instance, in Placencia, there's really nothing else you have to do because we're a village. In San Pedro, once you get your CBA permit, you then have to apply to a permit for San Pedro, for Ambergris Caye. And I would assume in Belmopan, you'd have to get that as well, and your towns. But if you're in an outlying area, there's not, to my knowledge, there's not anything else you need to do. Ken, is there because Corozal's a town, is there another inspection process in Corozal to get approvals?
No, not that I know of. As long as the CBA has approved your plan, you're good to go.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. All right, let's see if we can, we want to see Ken's handsome face so we can kind of, oh, I turned mine off. Sorry, guys. Let me see if we can, because your internet's a lot better now, Ken. You want to try to turn your camera on, and we can take the last 10 minutes with your camera on maybe, so we can see, so people can get a familiarity when they reach out to you and whatnot, if they can see, so they can see you. Again, guys, we have 10 minutes. So if you have any other questions, reach out. We thank you for joining. Next month will be, Serena put in there, next month will be December 1st, all access. It'll be 6 p.m. Belize time. And I think Belize time will be Central Time, Serena, because of the time change. Because we switch from Mountain Time. We're on Mountain Time right now, and we switch to Central Time when the U.S. changes its clock. And again, Serena just put in the chat box my email address and Ken's email address. And if you're interested in learning what we're doing in our asset management company, reach out at david@caribbeancapitalgroup.com. Thank you for following us. We have a couple webinars coming up for a chocolate farm that we have we're inviting people to join us if they want to, you know, partake in what we're offering in that. So join that. Those emails will be going out pretty soon. Again, I highly recommend Ken. Ken, while we have a few minutes, talk about some of the things you have to do for your first time. If you're coming here for your first time, what do you recommend? What is your favorite archaeological site? What is your favorite cave or zip line? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, if you're in the south, I would definitely encourage you to visit the chocolate tour in Indian Creek Village, Akti Ilha, and they have a chocolate farm tour there. Okay. And they also have the Living Maya experience, so you do a combination of both. And then the Mayan site of Nimli Ponit for archaeological stelas, very beautiful site along with Lubantun. But if you are going to be in the west, then of course head over to Shunantunich.
Yeah, agree. Mm-hmm.
And also, if you make it, and also along with the famous jade head of Belize.
Man, we missed you again. I'll tell you what, guys, I'll get Ken to write down this, and I'll give like a synopsis, and it will go out to my whole list. So we have about 10,000 people on our list, and it'll go out to everybody. So we'll put out, depending on where you're going, if you're coming to San Pedro, what you have to do. And of course, if you're in San Pedro, you have to take a boat or a plane. But Ken will drive up there and take you everywhere. If you're in Hopkins, he'll talk about that. And we'll come up with something, and we'll put that out in the next couple weeks. So look out for that. Because we didn't hear nothing, Ken, after, if you're in the West, go to Zantonage, which
Okay.
is really cool. I love that one.
You want me to try?
Yeah, no, you're still breaking up. But what we'll do is Serena will get with you and get you to put it out. And then we'll put your contact info in it and all that. And mention you heard it on Remax, or on All Access Belize or Remax, and Ken will give you a special discount for all of our clients. From now, there are some fees he can't give discounts on, like the all the fees for the sites, because there's fees for that, and that's what helps pay for the sites and things like that. So again, any other questions? Let me see. All right. Yeah, Kevin, thank you again for joining. Appreciate for all your great questions tonight. We had about 22 good questions. A couple of them we don't talk about a lot, so it was really good, especially the one about bringing in vehicles. I did write a blog about that and a special report about vehicles and what to watch out for. So if you're interested, send an email and we'll get that out to you. Again, stay tuned for December 1st. We'll get you the correct time because I think it'll be 6 Belize time, which is going to be Central time. So we do, Serena, you want to?
Hi, yeah, I was just gonna see if, 1 second. Okay, sorry. I was just gonna see if Danielle could reach out to me or David. I want to make sure that we get you in touch with Richard, and he can give you a contact with a good contractor in Corozal, because Danielle asked another question. She had lost some money to a previous contractor. So I just want to make sure that that gets taken care of. We see it, and Richard will be super helpful for you, just because we're not too familiar with up there in Corozal.
And also, we do have a service where we will take your funds and hold it in escrow. And then we will make sure we take pictures for you, and we, we'll check and make sure they're doing everything okay, and then pay the contractor as you tell us to pay. We hate to see anybody lose money, but all too often we do see people, pay contractors 100% up front, and I would never do that in the US. And so we would never do that here for sure, especially because the laws here are so much more relaxed, if you will. It's not like we can have mechanics liens and things like that. There are ways to do it. Shame them on Facebook and take them to there is a court here that we could take them to, but you really have to be here. But definitely, we do have a service where we do provide, those inspection services. So if you're interested in that, give us a call or give us an email, and we can, help you or explain. And there's other people that do it, right? It doesn't have to be us. But we're happy to do it. I have a couple houses being built right now in Placencia, and I send my team by to take pictures and video and then send it to them on, it could be weekly, it could be once a month, it could be whatever. We, depending on what you want us to do, we customize it. So we hate to see our clients lose money. We hate to see anybody lose money, especially our clients, because we feel like that's part of our education is helping you through this whole process. So we're not here just to sell property or whatever. We're here to help, you through the whole process. So again, thanks for joining, Ken. Thanks for joining, sir. Sorry, the internet was kind of iffy tonight. I know some of it is probably from the storm.
Thank you.
And thanks again. Say hi to the family, Ken. And we see y'all next week or next month on All Access Belize. Thank you.